Welcome home.
Mummy!
Why don't you tell me what happened to you in Marja?
I've been seeing things. Hallucinations. And it's not PTSD. I've been taking the pills.
That's the thing about war. Always leaves scars, and not all of them are physical.
You come from the house in the forest. A woman lived there. People whispered she could transfer the dead into the living.
Eden!
Are you taking your pills?
Yes! It wasn't a hallucination.
I need to perform an exorcism.
Whatever happens, stay calm. Do not attempt to make physical contact with a spirit. It is not safe.
Emma.
Games, Brains and a Head-Banging Life here, and today we are going to be talking about a brand new horror movie. We watched The Unfamiliar, directed by Hank Pretorius, who also wrote it alongside Jennifer Nicole Stang. It stars Jemima, there we go, off to a banger start, Jemima West, Christopher Dane, Rebecca Hansen, and many more. We'll be referring to notes for those as well, particularly when it comes to character names, so there's a bit of a difficulty with this movie. Now, should be noted that I have a bit of a relationship already with this movie to a degree. We've been sent a screener, an early screener, before it was released in the UK. And we also have an interview with the director, Hank Pretorius, and the writer, Llewellyn Greff. Not the writer, sorry, producer, which you can check out on the channel. It's a Desert Island Dregs. Lovely episode. Learned a lot about it then. At that time, I didn't really know much about the movie other than checking the trailer out. Truth be told, wasn't blown away by the trailer. Rarely am, though, particularly when it comes to paranormal-esque horror. Trailer can only do so much, but it was enjoyable, and there was a lot of suggestions that we were going to get a bit more of a deeper cut of a story here in relation to PTSD, and the combination of that with supernatural elements, which is actually how the film does play out. But it's also got a ton more to it than that. Now let's get it's out of the way at the start. This is a good film. There are things that make it great. There are moments that make it less than good. And in the end, I think you end up with a good, very good movie. That's enjoyable pretty much all the way through.
Looks good.
Oh, it looks great. Yeah, I mean, I would go as far to say, like, if you would ask me for a rating right now, I'd go, okay, if I was basing it off individual elements, I'd be like, okay, well, cinematography, location and stuff like that, and how it's filmed and shot and stuff like that, all the cinematography, as I said, that's near a 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, sometimes absolutely wonderful to watch. But like story-wise, 7, that kind of thing. Acting, maybe a 7. Certain, maybe a 6 because of certain delivered lines and certain things. But this is like, that's really breaking it down. Overall, it's a solid. A very good movie.
And you have to kind of like applaud that, especially with horror at the moment, with what is out there, you know, people taking a slightly different spin on a story, and it pays off. It's good.
Yeah, that's the most important thing I want to say about this movie, is that it's a fairly different idea and combines several different things to not be what you expect, basically. You think paranormal horror, and it is to a degree, but it's not what you expect in that, and it subverts your expectations several times throughout, with some great moments and great sort of surprise moments to kind of tie things together, with this constant wickedly done underlying feeling that something isn't right, and you just can't put your finger on it. Sometimes it'll be a line said here and there, or it'll be an insistence upon a certain thing or this, and you're like, what is that? And why is that?
Yeah, and again, that could play into, say, the whole story with the PTSD angle of like things not being not right. Yeah. And obviously, I'm guessing that's a big part of PTSD is you're back in a normal situation, but but you just don't feel part of it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's kind of the major sort of early point of the movie. Now it does open with a kind of here's a bit from the later part of the movie, and then you kind of go 7 days earlier. This is quite frantic though, and I didn't notice. I don't think I paid enough attention to see who the characters were. That actually worked in our favour because it meant it was still a surprise when we got to that point.
Yeah, I couldn't base it on anything.
Couldn't base it on anything. Because basically we see a young girl kicking and screaming, being laid down at a table with another, with a younger person there as well, while a Hawaiian woman effectively does some sort of ritual chant above her. And you see like a bubbling black wax kind of thing bubbling. And then it's like 7 days earlier.
Yeah.
And, okay, 7 days earlier, all right. What happened 7 days before?
Week,
yeah, 1 week before. And we're introduced to Elizabeth Cormack, who is Jemima West, Izzy for short, and she's basically come back from war.
Yeah.
She's been serving abroad. Afghanistan seems to be the location. She was a doctor, a field doctor. She was... It's implied throughout, or not even implied, suggested as well, and said to a degree that she went there because she wanted to help...
Yeah.
Not so much go out there to fight a war, but to help the injured people, being a doctor and stuff like that. But she also left her family almost directly after giving birth.
Yeah. And
she had fought with her husband, who was Ethan. Ethan Cormack, Christopher Dane. They'd had a fight before she left about it.
Yeah.
She's back now. He's happy to see her. She's scarred. Looks like she took some damage, and you kind of see like the scars across her stomach.
Yeah.
Will say, didn't think that they look great. I was a little bit puzzled about them. I was like, at first I thought, shit, they look a bit like henna-style designs. But I think I'm just being picky there more than anything else.
Because if you're wearing like protective vests and stuff, you probably won't get a full impact, but you probably get like...
I thought maybe it was like shrapnel scarring.
Yeah.
Maybe that kind of thing.
Scarring, so not like burn scars. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's not something that's focused on heavily anyway. It's more supposed to be an intimate moment between her and her husband more than anything else. He's very kind to her, you know. He's basically not bothered by it, and, you know, he loves her and stuff like that.
Looked after the kids.
Yeah, basically.
Well.
Time she's been away is hard to place.
Yeah.
But it's been long enough for things to feel a bit different for her.
Well, the age of the baby. That would be a...
Okay, what age would you put that baby?
Don't think it's... I reckon about...
1?
9 months.
Oh, but say 8 years. What? We're
8 years old, yeah.
Maybe 9 months to a year and a half. It's a fairly big baby, but not like big enough to be crawling or anything like that. So it's got to be under a year, actually. I'd say under a year.
Yeah.
So it's certainly been at least... I'd say she's been away at least 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
Long enough to feel a bit distant from her family.
Yeah.
And this is a very important plot point here. There are 2 other children, which is Emma Cormack. Rebecca Hanson plays Emma. She's a young teenage girl. And Tommy Cormack, played by Harriet Macmillan Hunt, who is a boy about 10, 11?
A bit older.
Bit older, you reckon? 12, 13?
12, yeah.
All right, about 12, whatever. And they're not her children. They're from Ethan's previous marriage or relationship. This isn't forced on you. I really like this. It's just an early pickup where... we didn't notice it at all until Izzy is opening a fridge and you see a post-it note saying from Ethan saying he'd taken Emma to her mother.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, okay, that makes so much more sense. Why there's a little bit of distance already between them.
Yeah. Because other things I've seen it where it's like an argument and they say, oh, you're not my real mum, just to kind of place the relationship. But it's like, oh, post-it note does it because it's like, okay, that makes sense. So the new baby is theirs together.
Yep.
And the other 2 are...
Yeah. But they've been together a long enough time for these children to have grown up around with Izzy. Enough so that they treat her like a mother, certain things. But time away has created distance between her and Emma, who's now a teenager and wants, I think she's aged 17. Yeah. Because he says later on she's almost 18, Ethan does. And she just doesn't want to really... She's very distant towards her mother. Whereas Tommy Cormack, he's a strange child. He's a strange child. Now, I really don't want to be all like, bad actor. I don't want to do that because I actually think later on he does some wonderful, wonderful stuff, particularly when he's got to play the role differently. We'll get to why. Yeah. And it's really well done stuff. But some of his early dialogue doesn't seem natural.
Yeah.
And... Unfortunately, I thought we were going to pay it off because it turned out he wasn't one of the possessed.
Yeah.
He's not.
Yeah.
So, like, and it's the line that really stands out, and I can't remember it exactly, but it's the part where he's taking down the pictures in his dad's study and showing his mother. And she's like, we shouldn't be doing this, showing Izzy. And he's like, oh, I'll do it quickly so I can alleviate your guilt or something. Discomfort. Yeah. And it was like, what?
Yeah.
It's quite jarring.
And I don't think we knew him well enough to go, that's part of his character. If you see what I mean? Because in certain sort of programmes, there's kids that are like that, and that's the way they talk and things like that. But I don't think we knew him well enough to go, oh, okay, he's very well spoken and talks older than his years.
And it's absolutely possible, but it was quite jarring. And momentarily, I flashed on my head to that child from Love Actually, the one who acts alongside Liam Neeson in Love Actually.
Sam
talks
Sam,
like a grown up, an adult, and it's horrible and all that. Thankfully, Harry Macmillan Hunt is a very, very good actor throughout. Like I said, there's stuff later on coming where it's generally like, oh, that's awesome stuff, man. Good.
And it's quite heavy. It's quite heavy going.
What he has to do, absolutely, what he has to do. In fact, I'll take this moment to praise the predominantly acting. Emma Cormack, Rebecca Hanson's character, who is very little nothing, later on gets to do some shit that had me smiling, man. Izzy, Jemima West is great. Great, and Ethan Cormack, Christopher Dane is also really, really good as well. Those four, the main cast, are very, very, very good.
Especially because you go into it quite, you're thrown into it quite quickly, so you have to kind of establish the caring relationships quite quick, rather than a build up to what happens. She comes back from war, this all starts happening.
Yeah, so the very first and early parts of the movie are kind of based around character development and getting to know the family, so to speak. The little nuances they've got. They live in a very kind of remote, cottagey kind of thing where you have to drive to the local town. Nice little location, English countryside kind of thing. It's weird, never really implied what they do for a job beside Jemima. Oh no, he's a professor. Excuse me, it's a professor. That's a very important thing. That is an oversight on my part. He is a professor, absolutely. So they have money. There's money and all that kind of thing. So the place location makes sense. And it's mainly about Jemima trying to fit in, so to speak, while also distancing herself from being that army person. Now, it's early signs that she might have PTSD. She never seems quite comfortable at home. Or, you know, it's not over the top, thankfully. It's not like she's having like mad visions and all that. It's just strange things start to occur. Tommy, for example, he's making a ham radio. That he's like, oh yeah, I'll be able to talk to you when you're in Afghanistan. But then says he's talking to his dad every night. Yeah. And it's just a throwaway line. Yeah. It's important for later on, but at that point it's throwaway, and she's just like, oh, that kid's weird. You know, a little bit of care about baby, but she starts to get woken up in the night by sounds of the baby crying, and it's not. And then there's a strange event in the garage in the car where lots of water and sand comes in, things that seem to imply and relate to where she was PTSD-wise, Afghanistan. Yeah. I do wonder if those elements were actually happening, and that, or they were PTSD-related stuff.
Yeah, because she even asked the boy. She even asked the boy afterwards, did you see like sand and water? Because there's a lot of it. Like,
and it's obviously there's none of it. And here's the thing, the paranormal events that occur aren't what you think they are. So there is a possibility that she was also suffering from PTSD, which heightened these issues. Yeah. Like fully suffering from it. Tommy actually gets stung by a bee during this period to reveal that he has an allergy to bees, enough that he needs, after being stung by a bee, he needs an injection, EpiPen injection, that kind of thing, for his breathing. So that's like an early thing for later on as well. A lot of stuff in the movie very early on, just here's this, we'll use that again later on, and we're going to come back to that. But weirder things start to ramp up, and her relationship starts to get more strained with the children, and with Ethan as well, who basically says, look, I think you've got PTSD. So she goes to a doctor, you know, you see her reading up, and it's there she meets a paranormal investigator. A paranormal investigator who's like, oh, look, you know, maybe it's this and that, whatever, and here's my card, call me if, he says, like, there's some energy around you, whatever, your house, call me if that makes sense. She gets pills from a doctor, obviously, to take him, and she starts taking them. But the events continue, including like pictures that are turned upside down. She accuses Tommy of that, but he says, no, it's not that. It wasn't me, of course. Then she sets up like web cameras and stuff like that, and she sees like Tommy behaving weirdly. And all of this seems to be related to Tiki Doll. That basically Ethan, on his last trip to Hawaii,
bought loads of stuff back.
Basically, he's a researcher and he was writing a book about it, but he tells her, look, I don't want to write that book anymore because he feels he's taken advantage of the culture, and he met someone there who taught him a lot, and she died, and he doesn't want to really do that. He doesn't want to sully her name. and instead he wants to write children's books. Fucking amazing. I love this because it's so throwaway to the degree where you're just like, oh, fair enough, that explains a lot, because his office has got pictures of scary stuff and demonic and all that, and that he's not interested and he just wants to try something new.
Yeah.
Fine. When the reveal at the end makes sense why none of that stuff is wanted anymore.
Yeah.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
You know, that's completely makes sense. And we should say as well at this stage that one of the more interesting things is this deals with Hawaiian cultures, Hawaiian myths and monsters that perhaps you don't know. You think of Hawaii and you think, well, what do you think of? Sun, sea, sand?
Yeah, Moana.
You know, exactly. You think of light and positive stuff.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, when we were Hawaii late in this movie, you do get that element. But we also see in a darker side and things I don't fully understand. I've never understood or seen before in relation to Hawaii. So it's during some of the sort of scarier moments that we do get what I think is the movie's best scare.
Yeah.
And it is wonderfully done. And it's Izzy sitting down with Emma. So Emma's playing a piano, and Izzy walks in and she sits backwards on the piano seat.
Yeah.
So Emma's facing forward, she stops playing, and Izzy sits backwards. Yeah, it's like that. Almost back to back, but side by side.
Yeah.
And Izzy's kind of reminiscing about a memory about when Emma decided she wanted to play piano.
Yep.
So the camera starts with a side angle where you see them side, and then slowly swoops around, obscuring Emma and just having Izzy talk. And then she turns and looks at Emma, who is looking at her just blankly.
Frozen. It's really
Like
creepy.
frozen. It is so fucking effective. And then in a sudden, she slams her head forward onto like a candlestick or something,
right in
a
the eye.
candlestick, and punches through her head.
Yeah,
and
not right, sorry, head. Yeah.
falls her down dead.
Yeah.
Obviously, Izzy panics and all that. She's freaking out. Ethan comes in. She's like, call an ambulance, call an ambulance. He's like, what?
Yeah.
And there's nothing there.
Yeah.
She's freaking out. She runs back to show him on the camera. In the camera, she's talking to nobody.
Oh,
It is excellent. It's a great sequence. One of the best moments in the movie, I think. I
definitely.
personally think. So all of this kind of has a call in a paranormal investigator to come check it. Ethan is pissed off about this, really not happy about it. Again, wonderfully done for later on, because at the time you're like, I was on his
agreed.
side.
Yeah.
I was on his side. It's like she calls him and she pays his people. He's worried about her.
Yeah.
He thinks these kind of people are the worst
Yeah.
for this kind of thing. Later on, we realise that there might actually be a different reason why he didn't want paranormal investigators there.
Yep.
They set it up. We get a possession, very well done possession scene, including the quite scary kind of witchy-looking creature that's talking in his ear.
Yeah.
And it's really well done. And then like a glass shatters and goes across the room. And they're like, look, your house, we need to do a cleansing. But we're going to have to come back tomorrow because he needs to rest. They leave. She goes and checks the footage and sees they faked it all.
Yeah.
They faked everything.
Yeah.
And it is such a galling moment for her. You see it in her face, wonderfully done by Jemima West,
Yeah.
as it's just like confirmation that, yeah,
It was just.
this is all gone wrong. Like, this is all me. This is all me.
Yeah.
And fuck those paranormal investigators for
Yeah.
doing that to people.
Yeah, it's good.
Because there are real people like that out in the world that take advantage of people.
Yeah, take their
fuck
money.
those people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Really cool bit.
Because the possession sequence and all that was cool to watch, but it's been done. And it was like, oh, we're just going to have a scary lady haunting the house kind of thing. Nope. Completely fake. All completely faked. Yeah, loved it.
That was really, I really enjoyed that part.
One question I would say, though, one issue, if I'm picking a hole, how didn't they see that? The camera was pretty big in the corner.
Yeah.
They didn't notice that camera, the paranormal investigators.
I
I know you're going to try and explain it. I'm not asking for an
I'm just saying
explanation.
on the flip side, do you walk into most people's houses and look for CCTV?
No, but you do look around. And you might
Fair
notice
point.
a big black camera that's sitting in the corner by the door.
Fair point.
Remember we see the point where she's putting it up. It's not small.
No.
So there is that side of
Yeah.
things. But it's forgivable. It's just like nitpicky moments here and there more
Yeah.
than anything else. This convinces Izzy to finally go along with Ethan's insistence that they go on holiday to Hawaii. Now, several times throughout it, he's been like, look, let's take a trip and get away from the house.
Yeah.
I reckon 3 to 4 times he brings it up. The third or fourth time being the final time where
Yeah.
she agrees to go to Hawaii and go to holiday, where they seem to go on a regular basis because they stay at a similar house
Yeah.
and have a relationship with a local.
Yeah.
Now, this could have been better defined because they refer to this woman as Auntie May, played by Rachel Lynn.
Yeah.
So the fact that it's referred to as Auntie May,
May,
and they
yeah.
have a relationship enough with her, could have really done with a bit more definition there. I didn't get that at first until near the end.
And there's Auntie May's, like, say, it's just like a term in the community. She's called Auntie May. So everyone.
But then they have a relationship with her. They know her.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah. More than anything else. I do believe the connection is that Ethan, this is the woman that Ethan was referring to at the start, and her daughter and stuff like that. I think that's related to that side of things. Yeah. So that's maybe the answer there. But yeah, this is enough to convince Izzy to go to Hawaii, and they go to a nice little location, really pretty, really, really lovely. Got a local lagoon that looks gorgeous. But it's there. Things don't stop.
No, you think that, when it all kicks off, Izzy's like, oh God, it wasn't just me going through some stress back at home. There's something seriously wrong.
And what really highlights it is when she gets a load of different visions or incidents in the bathroom where someone's drawing stick figures in the bathroom. Yeah. And you see an arm, and it's like a normal looking arm and stuff like that. So basically, we're going to get to what actually is the score, really. So, the unfamiliar as it is, the unfamiliarity is Izzy amongst her family. Yeah. Because it was revealed that some ritual took place that meant dead spirits have now inhabited the body of her family. Yeah. So Ethan and Emma are not who they say they are. They are other people. In fact, Ethan drops his accent and even complains about having to put on a British accent. Your husband's galling or awful accent and stuff like that. And they want to do the same to Izzy. This ritual involves like a chant and basically black wax. We thought tar at first, but we were like, wait, when they're pouring it over your body, you're dead. Like, you're dying. You're not coming back for this. But the fact that they survive and people wash it off, we actually think it's wax more than anything else, which makes more sense because it kind of encases you. Yeah. And they actually succeed with Izzy. They actually succeed in transference. It's called transference. And it's, what a shot. Yeah. So she's lying on the table. And this all comes about when Emma is trying to lead her. As if Emma's in trouble, she's calling on the radio. This is where Rebecca Hansen ups her game. Yeah. And she really, really sinister. If you loved me, you'd get on the table and stuff like that. Yeah. And that's where we kind of get the big reveal of who they actually are. So the transference, wax is poured over her body, covering her entirely head to foot. And then like the camera drops down. And it's like she falls through the table into water, which is the lagoon outside. Because she comes out of the lagoon and it's black and white. It's monochrome. Yeah. And really cool. And there's an echo, like sounds not quite right. And you see when she walks like into the house and all that, there are mirrors into the our world where it's colour and really stuff like that. Really, really top stuff. Yeah. But there's also a demon there, some sort of demonic creature that they cleverly keep quite hidden well. You see hooves, a devil effectively. Yeah. Some horns, you get a brief shot of her face, but mostly it's kept in the darkness and shadows, which is cool. It's while she looks in and sees Tommy that she gets an idea, basically. And this is also reveals certain things, like Tommy, when he said he was talking to his father. Yeah. He was! Yeah. He was, like, talking to his father through the two-way radio. Because that man's not his father. The one that's there in real life, he's not his father. So he was communicating with his father in this other world, basically, who have also been trying to communicate with Izzy. Yeah. So all the supernatural stuff you thought you were seeing were them. Yeah. Trying to drop signs. Yeah. The picture's upside down to try and show, look, these aren't us. Yeah. You know, kind of thing. Of course, it was never going to work that way. No. But it is like, this is all tying into a nice little neat bow and stuff like that. So she gets the idea of transferring her body in to Tommy. Yeah. Now, they do make it seem a little bit too easy to do that. Like, as if anyone could do this kind of ritual just by saying a few words and pouring some wax over you. Yeah. But I forgive it. Yeah. Because it keeps the story moving along. Absolutely. So she convinces Tommy to basically pour over him. Good job by the kid here. You know, he has to pour this over with pain. It's not an easy job to do either when you got to pour that shit over you. She takes control of his body. This is where Harry Macmillan Hunt comes into his own. Because now he's got to play the role like he's his mother. Yeah. And dialogue like he's his mother. Yeah. And like, cool. You know, like when he's later talking to Auntie May. So he goes to Auntie May and asks for her help. And he's like talking like about himself. And the boy. The character, even though he's not supposed to be. It is well done. And because it ultimately, although it's the body of Tommy, it's ultimately Izzy inside. So Izzy convinces Auntie May fairly easily, just by referencing dead daughter and all that, and helping her family to come and help. So basically they succeed. There's a little bit of battling back and forth, some bit of sort of semi-fighting, so to speak, particularly between Emma and Tommy, obviously in Izzy's control. And transference occurs and their bodies are restored. Yeah. And Izzy's brought back into hers. Tommy gets his body back. Ethan's brought back into his. And so we believe Emma is back into hers. Now, I did say at the start, the movie misses a step at the end. We're reaching that now.
Yeah.
Now, I feel it should have ended there.
Yeah.
It would have been a nice, neat bow. Happy days. Yeah. Unfortunately, the movie's got not unfortunately, because it's not like it's terrible. It's not even that it's bad. No. It's just maybe not what I needed. But there are elements I really like.
Yeah.
Emma isn't back. The demon has taken over her body. Yeah. We see this when she bites Auntie May. Here's the thing. I do love Rebecca Hansen in the sequence of events.
Yeah.
I just didn't really need the extra bit of story.
No.
Because ultimately what we now have is just a bog standard demon possession.
Yeah.
And probably didn't need it. But Rebecca Hansen has a smile that's really fucking sinister.
Yeah.
Really sinister, really, really creepy. And matched with the white eyes, it works quite really well.
Yeah.
They end up coming up with the idea that they can, get the demon out of her by drowning her in the lagoon, effectively. Yeah. Which they do, and they're trying to revive her, but like Auntie May says, like the demon's just going to come back with her. Yeah. That kind of thing. It's going to keep happening.
Yeah.
So she agrees to let the demon take her, and effectively goes in the lagoon and dies in the lagoon. Yeah. There's a bit of, are they going to bring back Emma? But then Emma is brought back to life, kind of thing. And everyone's kind of happy in that. And the movie kind of wraps up at a dinner table where they're all having dinner with a pie. It's a little awkwardly done, a little bit awkward. And it ends as the camera zooms into the baby and the baby's eyes flash white, suggesting that the baby is also possessed. Don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
Don't know how I feel about that. Felt a little cheesy.
Yeah. I think
when most of the movie doesn't have cheese.
I'd like to have found it just to be back together at the end, because I felt that would have related to the PTSD and maybe her feeling like she's got her family back.
Yep.
After the stresses of being away at war and coming back, of being through that and being together.
I'd have been fine with the line about the pie, the best pie, and then we just end the credits. Yeah. It's fine. The happy ending doesn't bother me because we would have got one had it ended where I said that perhaps it could have ended.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's a weird complaint because the demon possession stuff is maybe 10 to 15 minutes more. Not more than that. Certainly not longer than 15 minutes. And as I said, it's great to watch because Rebecca Hansen gets to have some fun, gets to do a bit more, and she's really sinister smiling and stuff like that. And you get more stuff around the lagoon and all that, which is a really pretty location. Really is very, very nice to look at. So it's not like a massive complaint.
No. I do like the fact that it picks like Hawaiian kind of mythology, because a lot of that focuses around, I don't know much, but I know quite a lot of it focuses around the water. It's an island.
Of course.
So your gods and your demons would all come from the island and the water. I mean, that. So yeah, I did appreciate having that kind of...
I love the location. It's a little bit different, and it's not like it's like, hey, we're going to now fill this with like a 70s video nasty, where we have to spend 5 minutes giving you shots of the island for touristy reasons. Hawaii's already a tourist destination.
And it's what she wasn't supposed to be comfortable there. You never get the feeling like they're on holiday, but you never get the feeling that she was comfortable on holiday. It never felt like a comfortable location for them.
Nope.
So I thought that was clever as well.
So yeah, I mean, that's The Unfamiliar overall. As we always said at the start, it's a very, very enjoyable film. Its flaws are things that you can forgive a lot of, really. Some of it, and a lot of it's nitpicky stuff. Another nitpicky thing for me is that they have a son who has a bee allergy, and yet they stay on a place that has beehives. And that's used for a thing later on. But it's kind of like, you wouldn't, if you have to have an EpiPen if you get stung by one bee, you're not staying near a hive because several bee stings could probably kill you. Yeah. Like that kind of thing is just a bit like, no, just leave that out then. Just leave it out or come up with something new because it just doesn't work. Yeah. And it makes you go, huh. But it's fine. Like, it's not like, oh no, that means the film's crap. It's really, really not. It's a very good movie. Yeah. And it's doing something a bit different in modern times when it's really hard to do something. Yeah. I think they don't go too deep into the Hawaiian mythology. Yeah. So it gets a bit sticky and over the top. Yeah. It's mostly just a lot of imagery mixed with chants and stuff like that. And that's perfectly fine. It's sort of thing where it's like, if you were interested by that side of things, you can then research and read up more if you want, The creature, which is a kaimoni, You know, that's something you can go and read up about if you so want. Played by Tori Butler Hart, by the way. Yeah, you can do that if you so choose. There's just enough here to add a little bit of freshness to a genre. I think they added the PTSD thing well enough.
Yeah.
Like, I think it obviously lost complete focus by the end, but it wasn't needed anymore because we'd reached the point where it was like, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
I do think there is suggestions that she did have some form of PTSD early on, but it was enhanced by the events going on around her.
Yeah.
Like, she wasn't gonna need to be on medication, that kind of thing, which was, solid, really.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, no complaints here. Absolutely. Good movie. Check out The Unfamiliar. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon to help us out over there. That's patreon.com/GBHBL, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?